Point being, I've got too many devices, but I really just want a desktop experience and a laptop experience that I can go between. And I think finally this year we're going to actually get that.
I mean, I feel like things fluctuate all the time, and I agree. It's like after using that MacBook Pro and I think it's just that combo of the screen is so good and the keyboard is so good that I would rather inconvenience myself by unplugging those cables and taking it than using the iPad. And I still love the iPad, and I still use the iPad every day, but I find myself,
still love it, yeah.
I use it way more for content consumption than I do typing things down. I don't know, I don't know what it is, and there's those ebbs and flows, but maybe with
I'm sure
iOS
we'll
16,
go back,
I'm hoping with iPad OS and...
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking is like, at this point, for me at least, Apple needs to do something with iPad OS for me to really care about the iPad Pro again, because I'm in the same boat. It's much more of a consumption device, and the only thing I really use it for is like when we have meetings and stuff, I'll pull it up, I'll use that for like just so I can like write notes and stuff with the Apple Pencil. But I mean, I'm in the same boat. It's still a great device, right? But the iPad Pro in specific is meaningless at this point. If I was redoing everything, I'd be buying the iPad Air or the iPad Mini like I have, because it does everything that I would need it to do. The Pro line of iPads right now is meaningless to me.
That's true.
I don't know if you feel in the same boat.
That's like now that I think about it, it's kind of a good point. I mean, unless you really like that display, there's nothing. What could the iPad Pro do that the iPad Air cannot currently do? Because like we mentioned before, you've got... Well, the iPad Air has an Apple Pencil support.
Oh, you said MacBook Air, I think. Or maybe...
iPad Air versus iPad Pro.
Yeah, no, there's nothing except for the M1 chip, which theoretically is faster, but like, who cares?
And we have yet to see any application really take advantage of that in a meaningful way, and Apple hasn't ported over Mac apps, so what's the point? So, I mean, we've gone down this road before. There's a limiting factor here, and the problem, I think, really the problem with the iPad Pro is Apple. Apple has capped it for whatever reason from reaching its potential, and it's sort of stuck in limbo as just sort of this higher-end tablet that's nice, to have a nicer screen, but... That's sort of it. So anyways, I digress.
Yeah. I don't know. I could talk about the iPad Pro for hours, because one last thing on it. The fact that it's the Pro in specific. The iPad line I think is great. It's just the Pro in specific, because if I'm going to be spending, I did the calculation last night because I was doing, let me pull it up actually so I can get the number correct. If I was going to do the iPad Pro as a full desktop experience, or as much as you can with the iPad Pro. So that means 12.9 because you want a bigger display, right? Kind of competing with the MacBook Air. You want the Magic Keyboard because obviously you get the trackpad and keyboard. That transforms the way you use the iPad. So let me pull it up here. But the price for a 12.9-inch iPad Pro with 256 gigs, so it's not the base storage, but let's be real, you're going to need a little bit more. It is $1,627 if I can read my handwriting correct. So that's $1,600. The price for a MacBook Air and an iPad Mini or a iPad Air, $100 difference between the Mini and the Air being more expensive, is where did I write? Okay, maybe I didn't calculate this. Maybe I didn't write it down, but basically $999 for the MacBook Air and $499 for the iPad Mini. Oh, so you're in the same ballpark. Yeah,
hands down, I would do the MacBook Air and the iPad Air or iPad Mini. I mean, either of those just seems way more versatile than your maxed out iPad Pro setup.
Exactly, and it's like, okay, argument being, I love the screen on the iPad Pro. Sure, I mean, yeah, great, but is it worth that? The other argument would be like, well, M1 chip. Well, MacBook Air has the same M1 chip and it has all the other Pro features. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So I'm excited to see what Apple does. I'm hoping they do something. I hope it's not just MagSafe on the back. Didn't really intend to get into the iPad Air, but I've been thinking about iPad for a long time because, like I said, it's just been sitting there and I pick it up not nearly as often as I used to. So
I mean, you make a good point because just the more I think about it now, it's like, well, based off of how I've used the iPad Pro lately, if I'm just watching stuff on it, why wouldn't I just go with the Air if I had to do it all over again? Save the money, get the Air. It's just as good. I'm not sitting down and watching movies on that for 3 hours. I'm like taking it with me to the gym and watching YouTube on it and like, casual stuff like that. So it's the iPad Pro is just, it's such a great device that was so nice to see get refreshed a few years ago. But now as the other iPad options have gotten much better and iPad OS has seemingly reached its sort of cap, so to speak, It's just going to be interesting to see what Apple does and what new features they can unlock. Because especially if the rumors are true, they're going to put the M2 inside. What is the point of this M2 processor if it cannot add? What tangible functionality or feature does this M2 processor give you that you cannot get in an A series chip with the iPad Air? Because I have yet to find something really meaningful with it.
Right. And the argument would be that you can't obviously use a touchscreen and the Apple Pencil on a MacBook Air, but for the same price as a comparably, usable iPad Pro, you can get both. So yeah, it doesn't make sense. Hey, you made it to the end of this Apple Circle podcast clip, but there is a full episode. So if you want to listen to that, click the video over here. You can watch the entire thing. Or if you're someone who just wants to listen in your headphones, we have the audio version. Of course, links for that where you can subscribe and listen in your favorite audio podcast player is down below. And last but not least, the Apple Circle channel, where we have many videos covering everything Apple, is also linked down below. So be sure to check that out and get subscribed.